Hey everyone, I'm Lucy.
And I'm Tamoor.
And we've just watched the Season 4 Black Mirror episode, Metalhead, and we're here to break it down and uncover all of those Easter eggs.
But before we get into that, here's your friendly reminder to subscribe to GameSpot Universe. We've got breakdowns of every single episode. We've also ranked every episode of Black Mirror from our favorites to our least favorites. And we have a spoiler-free review of the entire season, so make sure you watch those. Like this video as well, subscribe, do all the things that internet people do on YouTube, and let's get into it.
Oh, it's very Black Mirror there at the end, wasn't it? But anyway, if you haven't seen Metalhead, turn away now. We're going to break it down. So Metalhead is one of the rare episodes where it doesn't explicitly tell you what's going on. It like puts you into this situation and it seems like it's a post-apocalyptic kind of scenario. There doesn't seem to be too many humans around, but it doesn't necessarily tell you why. But you can infer from the evil of the technology that it is something to do with these robot dogs.
It's something that we take for granted, the idea of technology and where it can go wrong. It's something that's explored in media fiction all the time. We have like Terminator and various other movies and TV shows that tread the same ground. So I feel like this focuses in on that simple concept, but telling it in a really stylistic way. Yeah.
What I like about it is because usually at the center of most Black Mirror episodes there's a central piece of technology and it's been abused by humans. In this case, it's clearly something we have developed for security. So you see these dogs guarding like a warehouse, and clearly it's like the Terminator, right?
Yeah.
Like something's gone wrong in the wiring, in the computing.
Or even the AI.
The AI has kind of deduced that, no, actually the threat is humanity.
Yeah. So the three characters that we see at the start, they approach this warehouse and they kind of infiltrate it like stealth unit style.
Yeah.
And then they find the thing that they're looking for, and then very abruptly, almost like a mine going off, this robot dog style thing activates, and it kicks off this kind of like chase for survival.
Yeah.
And they have to get away from this thing, and this thing is like almost like an apex predator of like security.
It is a dog Terminator.
Yeah, essentially.
And it felt like certainly when the main character, Bella, was like going through all these situations, like she was in a car accident and like it jumps off a cliff and like the only time she was safe for a moment was when it ran out of battery.
Yeah.
But then it's such a sophisticated piece of technology that all it had to do was just recharge.
Yeah.
And it's basically the Terminator line. It will never stop looking for you. It will never stop. You will never be safe.
Yeah.
It will kill you.
Listen, if you can hear me, just whistle. Don't say anything.
You could tell like at one point this was probably created as like a guard dog style thing for most homes in the future. And then like you said, probably the AI grew, sentient and was like, humans can do one and we'll take care of them now. When it loses one of its arms, it's slowed down for a little while, and the first thing it does when it goes into that house where Bella kind of holds up and decides to mount her kind of attack, it goes into the kitchen and finds a knife and uses that as like a Ash versus the Evil Dead style, like attachment. And it's terrifying because it spins super fast and it's like stabbing. Like
it reminded me of the bit in Terminator 2 when the Terminator was, metal. What is it?
Flesh over
metal endoskeleton.
Yeah.
But like it kind of had like mercury and it could bend and adapt to change what it how it could kill you.
The T-1000.
Like the
yeah. So like you can imagine that this is kind of like the best killing machine that they had, and it's kind of like, it's terrifying to think that that's where we could end up one day, even when we start off with like the most innocent of ideas. Like, wouldn't it be cool if our guard dogs didn't have to be our actual pet dogs?
Yeah.
And they, we can keep them out of danger and have these, kind of disposable things, expensive but disposable things to do all the work for us.
Yeah.
But of course, that obviously goes wrong, and then we have what we have happening in Metalhead, which I really enjoyed as an episode. I didn't think it was overall as like poignant as some of the other episodes. I'd probably say it's the weakest episode in Black Mirror season 4.
But that's not to say that it's a weak episode.
But the
it's
season,
just the rest of the season is
really good. It's a really high bar, and between like the stylistic way that it presents the story. It's the shortest episode as well, so it's not really lingering on anything. It's not drawing it out. It feels like a punch.
There's no wasted moment. So you just basically follow her as she's trying to escape from it. It's clear that there is some kind of human sanctuary, maybe, that she is like trying not to lead the dog back to, but it can fire out tracking barbs in kind of shrapnel. So she only gets hit with one at the very beginning, manages to get that out, but towards the end, she's in close proximity to the dog, and it just like.
Yeah, it pelts her with it, and so she's hit with loads of them, which means like, and a lot of them are in her face.
Yeah.
And she kind of decides, I'm not going to be able to get these out of my face, and I'm just going to have to sacrifice myself, which is really like we were talking about how dogged these dogs are.
Yeah.
But like you see that they have a failsafe for if they aren't able to kill, their target, they can dispatch others.
Call in.
Which was really weird because like it was interesting. You can see how they work. That was an interesting moment where you figure out how they kind of network with each other.
Pack animals.
Yeah, so that one dies, and it seems like it sends out a signal before it dies to say, I'm done.
Yeah.
And then the others kind of, when they show the other dogs, they go to where the warehouse was to kind of start where that dog started. And presumably they're going to track it back to where Bella is, and inevitably she's going to die.
And I mean, overall, even though, it's called Metalhead, it's in black and white, and this piece of technology is the antagonist, and there's not a lot of speech in it, at heart it's a very human story, because you find out at the end that they've risked, 3 of them die just to try and get a teddy bear for a dying child, because that's
it seems like those are the important things in this. Like we were saying earlier, like it alludes to the world around it instead of explicitly stating what's happened. And it seems like that world is in such a situation, it's so dire that small comforts like a teddy bear is enough. It might just be a morale boost for that sick kid. It might just be for everyone. That's what they need to keep them going just another day. And they're willing to go so far out of the way and put their lives at risk for that. So it's kind of like it's not got a poignant moment in terms of the message it delivers, but that's something poignant within it. That is like a small narrative kind of tidbit that kind of helps really sell the world and the time and the risks that they have to go through just to make it through day by day.
All right, and now here are some of the things that we noticed when we were watching Metalhead.
Yeah, so we talked about Terminator, but it's worth reiterating how similar the two are. There's obviously the style of it is very much like the Sarah Connor staring into the playground vibe that you get in Terminator, and then everything goes wrong. The atmosphere of that is very similar. But there's also some imagery that's quite similar at the end where she's picking out kind of like the surgery stuff, picking out the trackers from her. You have almost the same kind of shot in Terminator when Arnold Schwarzenegger's character is doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So there's that. That is a very Terminator thing.
Yeah, and I think especially the adapting to kill you using whatever means possible. Yeah. Like even kind of like the R2-D2 moment where he kind of like uses his attachment to open the door, like with the key thing. That was very Terminator as well. Very Terminator as well. Yeah, but beyond that, there's other sci-fi and horror movie references. One of the things that we noticed was the actual dog. The head of it looks like very much like a xenomorph. From Alien 3. Yeah, a kind of like a futurist. If they carried on with that Alien franchise, if they carried on driving it into the ground in the way that they were. I was going to say, like, do we want that? Yeah, one day in the future, we would have got to like mecha xenomorph, and it would probably look like that kind of. Yeah. But beyond that, there's. Certainly when Metalhead, like you can see through its eyes, it looks very much like Riddick meets with maybe a little bit of Predator as well, the way that they see the world. But I would say the main kind of horror movie that certainly inspired the music and a lot of the shots in Metalhead was The Shining. So even like that opening scene where they are driving in that van, very reminiscent of the opening scene where the Torrance family are driving up to the Overlook Hotel, the way that the camera is behind the vehicle and like you can just see all these rolling hills and it's peaceful and serene, but there's an undercurrent of something that's not particularly nice. And also if you listen to it, there's a lot of very similar sounding sound effects and the music especially is like, did you just copy that? soundtrack.
You been on Spotify, buddy?
You've been on Audio Network and like typed in The Shining? Like it sounds, it's the brass, it's the strings when things are getting really hairy. There's also a moment where Bella's character's looking through like a gap and it just looks like, you know, the bathroom scene from The Shining.
Yeah.
He is Johnny. And also when the dog loses one of its limbs and it's limping, it's kind of slowed it down, but it's still this ever-present like horror, this menace that's coming after you. It's very reminiscent of in The Shining when Jack Torrance is limping after Danny in the maze.
Yeah.
Like you know that he's still coming for you. He might have a slight disability, but he's still coming.
He's dragging those legs, but he's gonna make it. So those are some of the horror and sci-fi movie references that we noticed, but there's a few more things. For example, Featherstone Electrical. That is named after Cade Featherstone, who was a work experience kid that worked on that one episode in the art department, which is nice for him.
Yeah, it gets immortalized in Black Mirror. We also noticed that the dogs bear a strong resemblance to the robots that Boston Dynamics are making. If you've seen the video of that guy kicking that four-legged robot, well, if anyone wonders where the apocalypse started, it's probably with that video.
So every time you share those videos and laugh at it, you are contributing to the end of mankind.
Is anyone keeping an eye on Boston Dynamics? Just want to know.
They should be. Another recurring Easter egg is peppermints. Just like in the episode Crocodile, peppermints make a appearance here and they kind of save a life here.
Yeah.
So she figures out how to kind of get past the dog by throwing peppermints at it from a tree until it doesn't activate and respond, and then sneaks by. So peppermints are good for fresh, minty breath and for saving you from menacing technological killer dogs.
Bad for your teeth, though.
Yeah.
And one more thing, at the end of the episode, it turns out they were looking for a white bear. Could this be a reference to the season 2 Black Mirror episode, White Bear, where obviously the small child that was murdered had a white teddy bear?
Say white bear one more time, I dare you.
White bear.
Okay, so final thoughts. What did you think of it?
I really enjoyed it. It felt certainly more like a Monster of the Week episode, which is totally fine. And I appreciated that it managed to tell so much without actually saying a lot. There was a lot of subtext and a lot of things to read into, which I really enjoyed. I really liked the way it was shot as well.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same for me. That it does, I think that I love in video games, which is like world building without overexposing the details, just giving you enough information, but leaving big gaps in between so that your imagination can fill it in. Often what you come up in your mind is better than anything that someone could have written down because you make it meaningful to you and you're able to fill in the details in your mind.
Yes.
And I felt that was quite powerful in this episode. So I think it's a strong episode, like we said, despite being of all of them the weakest, it's still within a season that is far and away exceptional and amazing and a must-watch season of Black Mirror.
And if you want to see our spoiler-free review, then make sure to check it out on GameSpot Universe. We also have breakdowns of every single episode, fan theories, Easter eggs. We have an idea of how the whole thing ties together, so make sure to stick around for that. In the meantime, you can find us on Twitter. I'm at Lucy James Games.
I'm at Tamoor H.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye. Stay away from dogs.
Stay away from Boston Dynamics.